Banished to the closet for the long cold winter, the fan went into the closet with the previous summer's dust on it, in the hopes that spring would come someday and it could be cleaned off and returned to service. However, in classic New England fashion, someone flipped the weather switch from winter straight to summer. New England got 90-degree weather after all kinds of really cold weather. There was no chance to clean the thing off, and the idiot with the camera had to turn away from it to finish the intro.
Epic fail. The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Yes, folks, fan season has begun in the Geek House. It's that time of year, and it wouldn't be New England if we didn't have weather that we couldn't make fun of. We literally just went from a really cold April to 90 degrees right at the start of May. Classic New England. Now let's get back to messing around with Tuxedo. Or not. So basically I found out the value of these newbie overclocker programs like AMD Overdrive for people that don't just want to keep keying in settings and seeing what works. There's a little something where it'll just keep speeding the computer up and recording the successful speed results until the whole thing crashes, and then you just get the last successful speed result and you go with it. I specified specifically to not increase the voltage though, so we could go a little further if I wanted to mess with voltage settings as well. For now though, let's keep things stock voltage. So anyways, normal speed range on the 8320E is 3.2 gigahertz up to 4 gigahertz turbo. I now have it at 3.8 to 4.4. Good stuff. Should squeeze a little bit more performance out of this thing. Let's Nova bench this thing one more time with the new clock settings. Might have to figure out. See, the thing is, the the regular frequency on this thing can actually go up to 4.2 gigahertz with amped voltages, according to AMD Overdrive, but I don't know what the voltage level was. So I don't know. I don't want to crank the processor all the way up to 1.5 volts plus. I'm not trying to burn it out that fast. We do have some thermal headroom, but you know, while this thing's doing its thing, and of course the kilowatts doing the power thing, and oh, look at all the scratches on this case from, well, I did get this in 2007, so over a decade of scratches. I could always bust out some paint and some clear coat, give it a new paint job, but that would be too much work for too little results. Especially considering the computer we're talking about here. Okay, let's see how much this thing blows up the meter here. 300 watts, baby! Woohoo! Yay, early 2010s, yeah, Kepler nonsense. We'll get back to that shortly. Yeah, it's blatantly behind the Delosaurus, not hitting 80 FPS on the graphics part of the test thingy. But I'm more concerned about the CPU, because I know the graphics card is utter rubbish, not to be confused with the netbook. 1517, 674, so it can't even crack 700 on the CPU score, even with the overclocks with no bump to the voltage. So I could take it to 4.2 base if I knew what the voltage was that AMD Overdrive used, but unfortunately the last known good settings that AMD Overdrive saves only tells you what the frequency was in this build. Well, probably the final build, because now there's Ryzen Master for newer AMD systems, but now that there's these rookie tools for moderate overclocks without going too crazy, because, you know, you have an aftermarket cooler and you want to run things a little faster, I actually think my next system will be some kind of AMD Ryzen at some point. Monolith 2.0 with the first guts upgrade of that system once the prices come down, maybe around the holiday season. That's when prices of electronics usually nosedive because people are buying more of them. Maybe it might be time to consider, or wait till the next generation Ryzen comes out. That will be a substantial bump over the Skylake. I do have plans for the Skylake post next upgrade of Monolith though, but we'll keep that under wraps for now. So yeah, 1517, at least it cracks 1500, and of course I did try 1528 and other stuff like that. And if we go way the heck back to the 1090Ti, of course, it was 500 something, so yeah. This machine still is tertiary. It's not going to dethrone the Delosaurus anytime soon, and I'm mostly going by the CPU score. Basically what sets the tone for everything, because I know the graphics card is dated, to put it nicely. However, I have some extra thermal paste lying around. I want to try reapplying the thermal material to a graphics card to see if that can really help things. Been seeing some videos about it on the internet, and, well, you know where this is going. Okay, let's see what this thing currently barbecues at before we start messing around with taking the card apart and stuff like that. So we are getting this thing close to the 90-degree mark. I am running MSI Afterburner, obviously, and I've got the power thing bumped all the way up to like 110 to 115%, you know, the factory allowed overclock and stuff. The interesting thing is that, look at the 8320E's CPU usage for Unigine Valley Extreme HD. This thing is snoring at this benchmark. It's good to have the nice little display doohickey going here, and of course 1200 megahertz on the core clock for the 760. But I'm getting it up to around the 90 degrees Celsius mark when I try to bake the living daylights out of it. But that's on the original thermal compound from a couple of years ago. I've been getting this mixed up, actually. I thought I got this card in 2013, but I think it was a 2014 purchase. I just wanted to get back on the NVIDIA side of things after going AMD for a few years, because the Fermi era was power sucker galore, and beginning with the Maxwell architecture, NVIDIA finally started to move away from that to what we have today with Pascal, which, and so yeah, right, good. GTX 760, it's hanging out. I can cook it up to around 90 degrees or so Celsius. I don't know if it's throttling or anything. Maybe it is, like 98% usage and stuff. But that 8320E is absolutely snoring at all of this. Alright, why don't we shut the machine down and let's grab some extra thermal compound and see what we can do with this thing. Man, how many times have I busted this thing open over the years? I'm losing count. Little hack job system that could, with the 140 by any means necessary for a cooling fan there. Yeah, let's get this thing out of here. I was actually comparing the 760 to the 1050 Ti, and yeah, it just guzzles a lot more power. Look at those extra connectors. Whatever. This thing is still warm from cooking it at close to 90 Celsius. But that's one of the things we can do with a tertiary system like this. I mean, it is basically an expendable system to tinker with. If I mess something up, I mean, this card has had a good run. I really don't like it anymore. It's just, I'd rather have something more power efficient. Same performance with less wattage, less heat, slower spinning fans? Yes, please. Oh man, people are going to be calling me the hippie computer guy at the rate I'm going. Dude, if we only got one planet, we gotta save it, man. Okie dokie dokie, a bunch of different screws on the back. Let's see what they all take off, and just try not to take the bracket off. Here's our Kepler card minus the cooler, so now we can get the we can get a cotton swab in here and clean out some of the stuff that the duster cans couldn't get at before. And here's the cooler itself. Here's the cooler itself, the view you don't see very often when you're trying to clean one of these things out. We'll blow all of this out with the duster can, and there's the remaining thermal compound, some strange cross between rubber and concrete. Yeah, let's clean that off and put some fresh stuff on and see how much better some Arctic silver will work with this thing. Look at that, nice and shiny. It's practically a mirror. We can see the heat sink in that graphics die. You know, this may be old technology, but it sure looks pretty when you clean it up. Chip cream, a little dab will do ya. Let's see if we can get this thing back together without it smudging out too much. The fun part about this is that unlike, say, the processor, which is going this way, the GPU is going that way. So, the way we attached everything, I don't think there's too much to worry about in terms of the thermal paste maybe going anywhere it's not supposed to before it cures. Then again, I mean, well, we'll see what happens. Quite frankly, if this card has seen its last days, it had a good run. Okay, time to apply some power here. For science! 3, 2, 1. No strange noises. Next up, we'll actually use the camera to help with this. Make sure that both fans start spinning, except we can't see under there. Plan B, do not try this at home, kids. Oh, they're spinning! Postcode? I don't smell anything burning yet, so let's see if we can spin this out of the way and see what temps we're getting. Well, 10s and 30s with the Arctic silver on the GPU instead of the stuff that was there before. So, I don't know if it really made much of a difference, but then again, I hear that this stuff has to cure after X amount of time, and then the performance gets better or something. Whatever, let's cook this sucker. Unigine Valley, English Extreme HD, let's go. See how hot it gets. Genuinely impressed. Even in the rainier parts of the Unigine Valley benchmark, I'm having a hard time getting this thing out of the low to mid 80s. Remember when we easily got this thing up to 90 degrees? Ah, cool, some fresh thermal compound. I think I might have used a little too much, so I might be getting worse results than what I could have gotten. Either way, though, I'll take a couple of degrees off the max operating temperature, and I don't know if this is going to get any better once this stuff gets baked in a little more, but, yeah, cool. 85 degrees, baby. This is a lousy graphics card, but we managed to get it to run just a tiny bit cooler anyways, but, how about one more Nova bench for the road here? 100.5 on the watt meter before I brought the camera over, now it's 120 just to tease me. So, good stuff. I wonder what else I can do with this extra thermal compound in terms of making things run cooler. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. I'm also curious as to what games this thing can still play with its lousy, dated hardware combination. But now that I've seen, you know, the low CPU usage on Unigine Valley, although that's probably because it's a graphics benchmark, we'll have to play a more CPU-intensive game to see where we're at in terms of how close we are to capping the FX chip out. I'm actually curious, though, as to what kind of games this thing can still play. Oh, look, big, huge overlay. It's probably not even going to make it up to 80 degrees before the benchmark ends. It's not even using the whole GPU to render this 720p scene. So, I do have adaptive VSync turned on, so it's not like I'm running this thing fully benchmark optimized. I mean, if this system can snore at something, although it did hit 300 watts earlier, but if this thing can snore at something, then, if it can snore at something, then by all means. It's not like this thing's ever going to win on anything anymore. No thanks to the Dellasaurus. 1513, 681 on the processor, and 592 on the GPU. Of course, we do know that the GPU is taking it easy with that 720p render scene. And I'm curious, though, if the power save features on a graphics card could potentially throw off the score in something like this. Maybe my numbers are lower than what they really could be if I ran everything full blast. But who cares? I like to test with real-world conditions using computers the way I would normally use them, to play games and do some video editing and things along those lines. So cool! A little bit cooler on the high end for the graphics card temperatures for whatever I decide to do with this stupid Kepler card until it finally cooks. Maybe I should try some thermal compound and some other old electronics I have lying around that probably have concrete for thermal material at this point. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.
Want to support the wackiness? Visit patreon.com/multimediajay.